In the earliest days of Christianity, an apostle was first and foremost a man who claimed to be an eyewitness of the resurrection. Only a few days after the crucifixion, when two candidates were nominated for the vacancy created by the treachery of Judas, their qualification was that they had known Jesus personally both before and after his death, and could offer first-hand evidence of the resurrection in addressing the outer world. A few days later, St. Peter, preaching the first Christian sermon, makes the same claim. God raised Jesus, of which we Christians are witnesses. In the first letter to the Corinthians, St. Paul bases his claim to apostleship on the same ground. Am I not an apostle? Have I not seen the Lord Jesus? As this qualification suggests, to preach Christianity meant primarily to preach the resurrection. Thus, people who had heard only fragments of St. Paul's teaching at Athens got the impression that he was talking about two new gods, Jesus and Anastasis, i.e., resurrection. The resurrection is the central theme in every Christian sermon reported in the Acts. The resurrection and its consequences were the gospel, or good news, which the Christians brought. What we call the Gospels, the narratives of our Lord's life and death, were composed later for the benefit of those who had already accepted the gospel. They were in no sense the basis of Christianity. They were written for those already converted. The miracle of the resurrection and the theology of that miracle comes first. The biography comes later as a comment on it. Nothing could be more unhistorical than to pick out selected sayings of Christ from the Gospels and to regard those as the datum and the rest of the New Testament as a construction upon it. The first fact in the history of Christendom is a number of people who say they have seen the resurrection. If they had died without making anyone else believe this gospel, no gospels would ever have been written. It is very important to be clear about what these people meant. When modern writers talk of the resurrection, they usually mean one particular moment, the discovery of the empty tomb and the appearance of Jesus a few yards away from it. The story of that moment is what Christian apologists now chiefly try to support, and skeptics chiefly try to impugn. But this almost exclusive concentration on the first 5 minutes or so of the resurrection would have astonished the earliest Christian teachers. In claiming to have seen the resurrection, they were not necessarily claiming to have seen that. Some of them had, some of them had not. It had no more importance than any of the other appearances of the recent Jesus apart from the poetic and dramatic importance which the beginnings of things must always have. What they were claiming was that they had all, at one time or another, met Jesus during the 6 or 7 weeks that followed his death. Sometimes they seem to have been alone when they did so, but on one occasion 12 of them saw him together, and on another occasion about 500 of them. St. Paul says that the majority of the 500 were still alive when he wrote the first letter to the Corinthians, i.e., in about 55 A.D. The resurrection to which they bore witness was, in fact, not the action of rising from the dead, but the state of having risen, a state, as they held, attested by intermittent meetings during a limited period, except for the special, and in some ways different, meeting vouchsafed to St. Paul. This termination of the period is important, for, as we shall see, there is no possibility of isolating the doctrine of the resurrection from that of the ascension. The next point to notice is that the resurrection was not regarded simply or chiefly as evidence for the immortality of the soul. It is, of course, often so regarded today. I have heard a man maintain that the importance of the resurrection is that it proves survival. Such a view cannot at any point be reconciled with the language of the New Testament. On such a view, Christ would simply have done what all men do when they die. The only novelty would have been that in his case, we were allowed to see it happening. But there is not in Scripture the faintest suggestion that the resurrection was new evidence for something that had in fact been always happening. The New Testament writers speak as if Christ's achievement in rising from the dead was the first event of its kind in the whole history of the universe. He is the first fruits, the pioneer of life. He has forced open a door that has been locked since the death of the first man. He has met, fought, and beaten the king of death. Everything is different because he has done so. This is the beginning of the new creation. A new chapter in cosmic history has opened.
All right, you guys. Hello and welcome. I hope you guys enjoyed that. C.S. Lewis is who we were just listening to. And a key thing that he said there, it's not about rising from the dead, but it's about having risen from the dead. Key point I think he made there very well. And I was watching the chat go by there. Yeah, it's about the resurrection. It's not about paganism and Ishtar and so forth. So happy Resurrection Day, which officially that was yesterday. It was Saturday, not Sunday. So we talked about that last week on this broadcast. Jesus was crucified not on Good Friday. He was crucified on a Wednesday. He was in the tomb 3 nights, Wednesday night, Thursday night, Friday night. The Sabbath goes from sundown Friday to sundown Saturday. God rose him from the dead on the Sabbath. So not Sunday morning, but in fact, the night of probably Saturday night, rolling into Sunday, you see. So anyway, I found that and thought it was pretty cool. Neat to hear those old recordings. And I always go back to, being a studio geek, recording studio person, to the type of, recording and equipment and stuff that was used. Many of my musician friends in the audience will understand what I'm saying. So I found that on Revolver, actually, revolver.news, C.S. Lewis's thoughts on Easter. Notice he didn't even really say Easter. But yeah, it was really about the resurrection. So hello and welcome. My name is Doug Diamond. You've reached another Diamond Report Live. As I always say, it is March 31st. The rest of the world calls it Easter, except for Joe Biden. He's now renamed it, apparently, and we're going to get into that. March 31st, 2024. It is 10:09 p.m. Central Time. And let's take a look at the news. We've got all kinds of stuff to look at tonight. We'll see what all we can get through. Looks like we've got quite a few people watching on YouTube and Rumble and a few on Facebook as well. So we're on multiple platforms here, and we'll just sort of peruse the news like we always do. And I've got a few things to talk about. Hopefully you guys can stay for a while and kick up your feet and enjoy chatting with each other. It looks like we've got quite a community going on here in the chat, so I love that. That's awesome. So I'm glad you guys are here week after week after week, and you guys make my job a lot easier. I can just know that you guys are in good hands with each other and talking about the Lord and all the other wacky stuff that you happen to talk about in chat. But anyway, let's take a look at the news. Again, we have the C.S. Lewis video here that's embedded. But I'll put that in the Substack post that I send out on Tuesday, and that'll have a direct link. And I don't know if there's other recordings of C.S. Lewis and various other subject matter, I'm guessing, on that channel. I did not have time to look. I did see this as well. Harkens back yesteryear. Some nostalgia here. Good Friday, years ago, New York City skyscrapers lit up with crosses and showed a nation that embraced faith. You'll never see that now in New York City, which in my opinion is the Babylon of Revelation 18. But it did exist, apparently. So I thought that was kind of a cool old picture as well. So yeah, a little nostalgia for starters here tonight. I thought you guys would appreciate that. All right, well, let's jump into the news. Hal's got his new website up and rolling here, so I've got a few articles pulled up from there. China warns citizens inside U.S. prepare for, quote, various unexpected situations. What could that possibly mean? A strange warning has been issued by China to any of its citizens located in the United States. Take safety precautions and be prepared for various unexpected situations. According to the China Ministry of Foreign Affairs, several Chinese students and company employees have recently been subjected to, quote, unwarranted interrogations and harassment, end quote, by U.S. airport law enforcement officers and the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. That they said that on its WeChat account on Friday. So the Ministry of Foreign Affairs said on WeChat that it's unwarranted interrogations and harassment from the U.S. airport law enforcement officers. Well, join the club, pretty much, right? For Americans, and we try and go through the airport, we all get harassed. But, alas, I thought the Chinese were exempt. I guess if they were illegals, though, they would be exempt, right? So maybe they're just harassing them, making sure they're going to vote for Joe Biden. Maybe that's what they're doing. Their phones, their computers, and other luggage items were searched piece by piece, and several people were banned from entering the country. It says, to most casual observers, this, quote, warning from China makes no sense. At worst, perhaps 20 people from China have had unusual incidents trying to either enter the U.S., and hardly a reason for such a large warning unless, and this is what I have highlighted here, so-called conspiracy theorists are wondering if this is the warning, if this warning is actually the signal to Chinese forces already inside the U.S., sort of a notice to prepare for action. Says, after all, such folks say, how can anyone anywhere prepare for various unexpected situations? They point out that no one can do that, and thus the tinfoil hat folks who are often proven to be correct wonder if this is more of a signal than a warning. We don't know, but it's very possible that that is what's going on. So anyway, that's on HalTurnerRadioshow.com. Also this one, video, U.S. Congressman says Hamas in Gaza and Russia in Ukraine should be nuked. These people are such warmongers. Congressman Tim Walberg, Republican from Michigan, held a town meeting for his constituents recently, and during that he said that Hamas in Gaza and Russia in Ukraine should be dealt with like a Hiroshima and Nagasaki. So very quick. You can hear it yourself in the video below. So there he is talking. I won't bother playing it, but you guys can go listen to it if you want. While the Israelis may laugh and agree with such sentiment, the Russians, many people suspect, will not appreciate what this elected official has just suggested. No, I don't think they want to be nuked. But yeah, I could see, firsthand really, that the Israelis would think it's pretty funny. If they're the ones doing the nuking, of course. And I'm sure they've thought of it. We may see that. Who knows? I don't think they're going to nuke Gaza because they consider it their land, but they will do pretty much everything else. They're already dropping 2,000-pound bombs on top of apartment buildings. So what do you expect? Genocide is ongoing. And speaking of Ukraine, video, Ukraine's new soldiers. They're so young that they don't even shave yet. Well, we've heard about the conscription, the people who've been drafted, and this gives a good look. No, it's not a field trip to Disneyland. That's what it looks like. Let me play the video here. I'll mute it. But you guys can see how young these kids are. Barely wet behind the ears, and still wet behind the ears, as they say. It says these kids barely look like they're old enough to be in high school. And what kind of degenerate government sends boys who can't even shave yet into war. This government is doing sick and disgusting things. All this because the government is so egomaniacal they cannot accept that they've already lost the war to Russia, have absolutely no hope at all of prevailing. So they send young boys off to die for them. Ukrainians need to get rid of their present government, and fast. So those youngsters are not going to last long in the meat grinder. Such a shame and so sad. But Zelensky and company have no problem with it because it's not them. All right, I've seen a few folks send me this, and I wanted to just give you my 2 cents worth on this. Report: King Charles III has pancreatic cancer, only 2 years to live. You guys may have seen this on HalTurnerRadioshow.com, and it's in other places, although it's kind of the usual places that you might think. And when I went to try and find more on this story, there was only one actual source that was citing this story, which when you see something like this that's questionable, and there's only one source in the news, then oftentimes it's not true. So I would just say, as a precaution, it's very possible this is not true. But anyway, it says, reports come out of British media outlet In Touch claiming KC3 has pancreatic cancer and only 2 years to live. It says, according to the story, he's much sicker than the palace lets on and simply isn't up to the job of running his fractious family, the crown's business interests, and fulfilling the daily duties of the monarchy, the member of the royal inner circle revealed in early March. According to this questionable source, I might add, it says his cancer is eating him alive. He's very frail. The situation is desperate. King Charles has only been reigning for 18 months, so 666 as of right now. Anyway, yeah, and then he's got one other thing on here about what Google says about the life expectancy for pancreatic cancer. Survival for all stages of pancreatic cancer, around 25 in every 100 survive for 1 year or more after they're diagnosed, and more than 5 out of every 100, so more than 5% survive for 5 years or more. This is all contingent on the thought, the idea that he even has pancreatic cancer. And I've mentioned before that many of the experts are saying there's a good chance he has bladder cancer. They've never come out and said. So this pancreatic cancer story and 2 years to live is highly suspect, in my opinion, and I don't believe it. But even if it is true, say it is completely true and they're just way ahead of the curve, maybe there's something else going on here. It doesn't, in my opinion, doesn't disqualify him from being the potential future Antichrist, biblical Antichrist. So here's the actual article, intouchweekly.com, and we'll link to this in the Substack post that I send out on Tuesday as well. King Charles' funeral plans unveiled after monarch is given 2 years to live with pancreatic cancer. Well, this article talks about how they make funeral plans, but they always make funeral plans for monarchs. And they always have that sort of in their back pocket in case something happens. It's not unusual. So I don't want to spend a lot of time on this because I personally don't really believe this. I think it's probably fake news just based on the fact that the royal family, Buckingham Palace, none of those folks are saying anything about this. And I tend to think that it's probably not true. So anyway, yeah, take it for what it's worth, I guess, and just know that, people out there are trying to write him off, and I don't know. I don't think I would be, Cowboy says even the president has a funeral plan. Yep. I don't think I would be so quick to just sort of throw it out and say, well, he's not the Antichrist because he's going to be dead in 2 years. We don't know that. We just don't know that. It's up to God, and we don't know exactly what's going on, what he's going through. I have my doubts that he actually took the real look. I would imagine if he was on camera taking some sort of it would have been saline at the very least. I mean, he knows not to take anything like that. That doesn't mean, though, like I said last week, that doesn't mean that Kate took a saline. Princess Kate. And we talked about that last week. I won't go back into that again this time. But, I think that there's a good chance that he may actually have cancer, and it could be that this is what, one of the things that sort of brings sympathy across the world to him. And if it looks like he's going to die, or maybe he in fact does die, and then boom, he comes back to life, that's kind of what the Bible talks about, right? About the head wound. Well, it doesn't mean it's a shot to the head. He is one of the heads. And I personally think that will probably be something a little quicker, like someone tries to do him in physically, like whenever he's out meeting the crowd or something. I think that it would be something like that versus cancer, but I don't know. We don't know what's going to happen, so I just wanted to point this out and just let you guys know that I feel like this article is probably fake news, as they say. I think they like Kate and like they liked Diana, Emily says. Yeah, I think so too. I think that she is probably going to be sacrificed, unfortunately, especially, like I said last week, especially if she's trying to protect her kids from the pedophiles that run the royal family, the pedophiles that are in the royal family. We all know about this. So if she's trying to protect her kids from it, they may have decided, well, we're going to Princess Di her. So we talked about that last week. So anyway, let's keep moving here. We've got lots of stuff to take a look at. If you guys were in the band group, you may have seen that I posted this. News with Views. This is a website that I get their newsletter. It's pretty good. They have some good articles. And I saw this headline, and it really jumped out at me because Dave Daubenmire, Coach Dave, says, quote, "I am a proud conspiracy analyst." Where have you heard that before? And here, just to show you, that's what this shirt says. Conspiracy analyst. Diamond Report. Yeah. So anyway, I thought that was kind of funny. It's like Coach Dave is out there watching the show. No, I don't think so. But it is interesting. He says a lot of the same stuff that I've been saying for quite some time in here, in this article. And it might have been Emily. Someone said in the band post that it sounded like Coach Dave had been watching the show, as in this show. So I can't really go out and say that that's what's going on, but it is pretty interesting. There's several things he says here that I have also said almost verbatim. Yeah. So anyways, Coach Dave. So I'm in good company there, I think. I like him. He's put out some good info over the years. But that's on newswithviews.com. Let's see. Let me see if there's anything on here that I don't think he goes into conspiracy analyst. He just talks about conspiracy. Oh, yeah, he talks about meaning to breathe together. That's what I've been saying for a long time. Conspiracy means to breathe together, to conspire, right? Yeah, he did mention that. And he goes into where the word conspiracy theory, where that phrase came from, popularized by the CIA to bolster the official narrative of the assassination of JFK, to silence the voice of anyone who believed that what they saw with their own eyes back into the left. Yeah. Anyway, so yeah, that's Coach Dave on News with Views. And then let's take a look at these articles I've got pulled up on needtoknow.news, G. Edward Griffin's site. First one is my friend Alex Newman, who's been a guest on Lost Arts Radio several times, and I've had the pleasure of talking to Alex several times, and we're Facebook friends as well, and I really respect his work. He's doing some excellent work. Says Alex Newman explains that the deep state, acting through institutions such as the Bank for International Settlements, is working to foist CBDCs, central bank digital currencies, on humanity under the guise of safety, security, convenience, and social justice. But the real goal is abolishing privacy and implementing total control over the world. Once the system is in place, the war on cash will accelerate until everyone, the deep state hopes, is forced to use the controlled digital currency systems. The Biden administration and the Federal Reserve, along with the governments and central banks around the world, are working rapidly to bring this diabolical system into place. And the goal of control has been made clear by leading figures in this movement. It is critical that Americans resist. And then there's a video embedded here as well. Behind the Deep State, it's called. But that is The New American is where the video is linked from. And The New American is actually a really good news source. And I'm on their newsletter list as well. So feel free to look at thenewamerican.com for more information. And Mr. Alex is one of the writers, or perhaps one of the main writers there at the New American. So, good stuff. Squatters seize Beverly Hills mansion near LeBron James's home. Neighbor sarcastically thanks liberals. Grifters took over a $4.6 million unoccupied home from October 23 to February 24 and threw massive parties in an elite area of Beverly Hills near where LeBron James is building a new house, and Ben Affleck and Jennifer Lopez bought a house for $61 million. According to the reports, Morgan Garugolo, an aspiring actor, created a fake lease, moved into the mansion, threw massive parties and charged rent, but didn't face any legal consequences for his actions. He charged between $500 and $1,500 for entry into his parties. I guess the illegals probably do have that money because they're getting taxpayer funds. Gargiulo left after he was sued for eviction. The property has seen an interesting history, previously being owned by Dr. Uwada, who is accused of hiring a hitman to kill his girlfriend and is currently on the run. The mansion was seized by the court amid a legal battle over its ownership between multiple parties. Despite California law deeming squatting illegal, quote, adverse possession, end quote, statutes allow squatters to stake a claim over a property after 5 years of uninterrupted occupancy. Wow. Beverly Hills mansions are now being squatted on. Says liberal voters in California are facing the consequences of who they vote for. Yeah, and LeBron James is sweating it. I don't feel too sorry for him. Do you guys? Anyways, but still, this whole squatting thing is getting out of control. I've got more on that tonight, including a video. So we'll get to that in a few minutes. 8 states plan to ban the sale of gas-powered vehicles as Biden issues crippling new rules. The goal is to get you out of your car. The Advanced Clean Cars 2 rule is being adopted by 8 states and include California, Rhode Island, Massachusetts, Maryland, New York, New Jersey, Oregon, and Washington. The new rule specifies that only zero-emission vehicles, which include EVs and certain plug-in hybrids, can be sold beginning with the 2035 model year. Isn't electricity made with coal? That's where the most electricity comes from. Is it really that clean then? Says Delaware and Colorado finalized rules that require 82% of all new cars to be zero-emission vehicles by 2032. New Mexico announced that it will set its own annual targets for the sale of zero-emission vehicles. But again, no one wants them. The Biden regime and the EPA finalized a slate of economically crippling environmental regulations curbing gas-powered vehicle tailpipe emissions to begin with the model year 2027 vehicles. Mark Morano of the Climate Depot says that there's a profound lack of demand for EVs, as only 6 to 7% of the American public were interested in buying EVs. It's because they're terrible. And most have already purchased them, of those 6 or 7%. Every major automaker is pushing back against manufacturing EVs. Yeah, but they're being forced to do it anyway, it seems like. So anyway, needtoknow.news is where that article is. Bill banning chemtrails, I would say geoengineering, passes Tennessee Senate. So I mentioned this last week. A new bill in Tennessee prohibiting the federal government from engaging in geoengineering experimentation involving the release of chemicals into the sky, known as chemtrails, passed the state Senate 25-6. Similar legislation has been introduced in at least 6 other states that include Kentucky, Rhode Island, New Hampshire, Illinois, South Dakota, and Connecticut. The mainstream media is ridiculing the proposed ban as a, quote, conspiracy theory, but a poll of 1,000 people found that about 10% of Americans believed in chemtrails completely, while upwards of 30% of Americans at least found it somewhat true. Somewhat true. No, it's entirely true. Anyway, here is a video here of John Brennan talking about the need to cool the planet. And that's how they're going to do it. Fleets of planes, fleets of jets. Oh, and when you look up and you see those trails in the sky and they're already from fleets of jets and they're turning off and on their spray dispersions, don't believe your lying eyes. It's just ice crystals. Just ice crystals. That's all it is. Anyway, yeah, so I mentioned this last week, and who knows? I talked to Mr. Dane earlier in the week, and he said he felt like after talking to some of these state senate and also representative people here in Tennessee that he felt like it would probably pass. So we'll see. We'll see what happens. Because it started in the Senate, apparently, and now it has to go to the House. So we will see. I'll let you know when I hear something on that. Just when you think Biden can't get more blasphemous, he pulls a sacrilegious Easter stunt. So there he is, getting the old handshake from the wicked one. And then also the devil's in the picture. Sorry, that was an old joke. Biden just hit Christians with a 1-2 punch, turning their most sacred holiday, Easter, again, we mentioned this earlier, into a cruel joke. The first blow landed when his regime decided to drop all religious themes from an Easter egg decorating event. Seriously? What does the Biden team think Easter is all about anyway? Well, let's see. If you look real close, it's about paganism, right? It seems like in Biden's eyes, it's all about the sacred bunny. Flashback to 2022 when Biden was terrified because he didn't have his index cards and the answers printed on them, had no clue what to say. One of Biden's handlers, who was disguised as an Easter bunny, was ordered to usher Biden away from the press when they started to ask questions. And you can see here. Let me play this video. I don't know if you guys remember this. You can see the Easter bunny pushing him around. See? It's the only way to get his attention is to wave in front of him and be dressed as a giant rabbit. So anyway, yeah. So we're gonna mention that a little bit more here too. I've got a little bit more on this. Biden declared Easter Sunday to be Trans Visibility Day because apparently they're invisible the rest of the year. Mm-hmm. You can see how invisible they are. Pretty funny. So yeah, we'll mention that again a little bit here in a minute or two. RAND Corporation, Internet of Bodies may lead to Internet of Brains by 2050. I don't think we make it. What do you guys think? Hive Mind, The Collective, Hyperreality, The Borg, RAND Corp. It says RAND Corp has been a think tank closely associated with the Trilateral Commission since 1973, producing studies like this. All roads lead back to the military in their quest to create the perfect super soldier, shades of Hitler's Superman. Ubermensch, right? Ubermensch. The military is chock full of narcissistic technocrats whose holy grail is and always has been to master the human domain. So that is on technocracy.news. The most censored subjects on Earth, the Trilateral Commission, technocracy, and transhumanism. While everyone else whines about being censored over trivial news stories, the most important themes are being obliterated. Why? Because the threat of exposure is too great for the evil agenda of technocrats and transhumanists. For over 50 years, technocrats and the designers of the so-called technotronic era and the new international economic order have operated under the cover of anonymity. You can see the big artillery of the Trilateral Commission swoop in to destroy any person or organization who gets too close. Interesting who they have pictured here, huh? And then one more story here, one more headline and intro paragraph from technocracy.news. Technocracy depends on the digitalization of money, which we mentioned earlier. This editor has been forecasting for at least 20 years that the dollar is not the issue. It's the entire world fiat system of all currencies. The dollar will not crash and burn, as others have claimed. The CBDC system is poised to destroy all fiat paper systems in one fell swoop, and it will be sudden. Look for a financial shock to start the avalanche, and then look for a global bank holiday, i.e. Black Monday, lasting for a week or two, after which the new system will magically appear. And yes, and if you've taken the you will already be ready to be inserted into the matrix. You will already have the necessary technology just by accident. It just happened to be in the audience that they inserted into your arm multiple times. So, yeah, I think so too. And as far as what this article's saying, Black Monday, I don't know. I think it was, let's see, one of those, was it X-Files? One of those TV shows said that it happened on a Friday. And I think it will probably be, Black Monday will probably be a Friday. That's my guess. They'll close it over a weekend. That's when they always put out the most damning news. Any presidential administration always puts out the worst news on Friday afternoon because no one's paying attention. They started doing that when Clinton was president, and I think they'll do that as well with the bank holiday. It'll probably happen on Friday. Then you'll have Friday, Saturday, Sunday before markets or anything else would be opening on Monday, and they'll keep it closed for a while, however long they need to. My guess is probably not very long, and then they'll be back up and running. They'll flip the switch, as it were, and gee whiz, we'll have a new monetary system, and you have to go ahead and take the mark of the beast if you want access to your money, if you want access to your ability to travel, if you want to be able to buy and sell, if you want to do anything. You have to take the mark of the beast. Well, no thanks. I don't think so. So anyway, that's where it's headed. And yeah, the CBDCs seem to be lighting the path, and it will be probably happening very soon, is my guess. Because how much longer could they maintain this spiral of huge debt? I mean, it's just massive debt. Was it 34 trillion? I think was the last numbers I saw on U.S. Debt Clock. So anyway, that's on technocracy.news, and then we usually look at the headlines on Reclaim the Net, reclaimthenet.org. YouTube says it has a responsibility to manipulate algorithms leading up to the 24 election. So it's their responsibility to manipulate algorithms because you people are too dumb to figure it out on your own. You need Google's help. Facebook fact checker Remit, accused of misconduct, criticized for spreading misinformation about energy. Fact checkers hold power over what gets suppressed on the platform, but they're often caught making false statements. How about all the time? Facebook used man-in-the-middle approach to snoop on users' encrypted traffic in secret project. Unsealed court documents reveal the full details. Shifting election narratives and tech collusion. Federal government continues outreach to tech companies. AMA president advocates for stricter censorship of health misinformation, urges platforms to follow YouTube's strict speech policy. So they're calling for more censorship. That's what they want. Swift completes the second phase of sandbox testing for its CBDC interlinking. And then there's another article here about Trudeau's online speech monitoring. The government contracted a third-party tool to monitor speech. So those are the headlines on reclaimthenet.org at the moment, so feel free to look at that. Happy Trans Day of Visibility. This is on Liberty Beacon. It says, really, Joe? Happy Easter for those who care. For those of you who celebrate this sacred day, happy Easter. For those who don't, most Americans appreciate that it is the holiest day of the year for you and treat it with civilized respect. To the president who claims he's a Catholic in good standing, it's just another day to poke his fingers in your eyes. Yes, the White House is hosting the traditional Easter egg rolling event, but it has banned all religious symbols at the event, and the proclamation dated in the year of our Lord 2024 announced that this day, March 31st, is Transgender Day of Visibility. Can you honestly say transgenders have been invisible in this administration or generally in our country these days? No, they pretty much run everything, even though they are the tiny minority. This is what we call the tyranny of the minority, is what it is. Says, yes, it strikes me that it's so deliberately offensive to Christians that it's puzzling. Says, Biden is not the only Democrat official who could use some lessons in civility. There's Bill Clinton, Barack Obama, and the celebrities who pranced for them, including Queen Latifah, Stephen Colbert, and Lizzo, and the 5,000 rich New Yorkers who partied on the same day as the wake for an NYPD officer slain during a traffic stop. So anyway, yeah, there's quite a bit here on this Liberty Beacon article, and then in addition says White House doubles down after declaring Easter Sunday Transgender Day of Visibility. What a joke. What a joke. Jean-Pierre's statement on X Saturday followed overwhelming backlash to Biden's animated affirmation of the controversial holiday as the same day as the holiest Christian holiday. That was no accident, as you guys know. Definitely not. And then this is her tweet. On Transgender Day of Visibility, of course, she is one of them. It says the Biden-Harris administration honors the extraordinary courage and contributions of transgender Americans and reaffirms our nation's commitment to forming a more perfect union where all people are treated equally, unless, of course, you're Christian and white and male. So, otherwise, you get all kinds of rights. Then Speaker Johnson tweeted, the Biden White House has betrayed the central tenet of Easter, which is the resurrection of Jesus Christ, banning sacred truth and tradition while at the same time proclaiming Easter Sunday as Transgender Day is outrageous and abhorrent. The American people are taking note. I think it's too late. The ship has already sailed on that one. And then this one I thought was pretty funny. I won't read this whole thing, but you'll get the idea. It says a lot of people are upset with Biden for declaring Easter to be the Trans Day of Visibility. But to be fair, the date that was selected only because the LGB calendar was already rather full. The Trans Day of Visibility is March 31st. Do not confuse this with the Trans Day of Remembrance, which is November 20th. We must also take care to honor Transgender Parent Day, November 6th, Trans Awareness Week, November 13 through 19, and International Pronoun Day, October 20th. Trans is distinct from drag. International Drag Day is July 16th. But not everyone has a gender to trans. Agender Pride Day is May 19th, and Intersex Awareness Day is October 26th. You can come out as any of these on National Coming Out Day, which is October 11th, and it just goes on and on and on. They've pretty much blocked out every day of the entire calendar. Says, so in sum, while Christians may be bent out of shape about Biden's taking over Easter, you can see that his hands were tied. To be frank, Christians were being a bit greedy, demanding 2 days, Easter and Christmas, to celebrate their guy. You're not really leaving enough days on the calendar for the powerless and marginalized folks who never get enough attention. That's right. Anyway, I thought that was a bit comical and pretty true, actually. The calendar is full. No more room. Solar farm, the size of 2,500 football fields, is destroyed in Texas. But it's not going to be any sort of problem for the environment, is it? You guys have any idea how toxic these solar panels are? About as toxic as you can possibly imagine. It says a hailstorm struck the 3,204-acre Fighting Jays solar farm, the equivalent of nearly 2,500 football fields. Aerial videos show panels shattered with multiple impact points all along the fields of the panels. A massive solar farm near Houston, Texas, suffered extensive damage from a hailstorm. Hail presents a major risk to solar farms, which can add to the growing e-waste problem from the industry. Yeah, that's a big problem. E-waste, especially when you have chemical ice nucleated hail falling and breaking these things and shattering them and putting all sorts of toxins back into the soil. Oh, man, what a mess. So, yeah, 2,500 football fields, and it gets obliterated by a chemically ice-nucleated hailstorm. How do I know it's chemically ice-nucleated? Well, because pretty much all of them are at this point. They're chemically ice-nucleating all moisture to keep things cool. That's what they're doing. So, yeah, check out geoengineeringwatch.org for more info on that. So I thought that was kind of interesting. Now, let's see. People's Voice, as you look at the headlines on here. Illegals seen strolling into Arizona through a gap in the border wall. Says, WEF declares pedophilia sexual orientation must be added to LGBTQ+. So, there you go. The pedophiles there's going to be a P, and then before long they're going to add an S too for Satanism. In my opinion, it's a documentary reveals Nickelodeon hired 5 convicted child rapists and 2 known pedophiles. Chinese border crosser arrested after breaking into military base in California. I like how they have his identity concealed there. Look how well they hid his identity. Looks like he's wearing. Mork shades? Remember Mork? Biden sparks outrage after declaring Easter Sunday Transgender Day of Visibility. Yep. It says 8 U.S. states signed WEF treaty to ban gas-powered cars, which I mentioned that a little while ago. VIP elite who visited Epstein's pedophile island exposed in cell phone data leak. So that's kind of interesting. Who knows if any names will come out? Probably not. Obama melts down at $5,000 per head fundraiser as elite liberals turn on failing Biden. So that's this one here. And there's not really that much to this particular story, but what I have here, I wanted to show you this. A friend of mine sent me this video, and there's no audio here that really matters, but what you'll see here is the real president and his shoeshine boy. Meaning, this is the real president right here, and this is his shoeshine boy. You can see, I mean, he's just not even hiding it. He knows he's still the president and still calling the shots. Anyway, I just thought I would point that out. I thought that video was fairly telling. Even though, yeah, they're just coming out of the plane and getting in the car, you can tell who's running the show. ActivistPost.com. Fake news has been used for hundreds of years to justify censorship of dissent. So this is a pretty good video. This is another TruthStream Media video. I do like their content. It says the state trying to be the arbiter of truth and using fake news, quote unquote, to shut down dissent goes back centuries. And it's something America's very existence is based upon fighting against. Nothing we're seeing now is new. People just don't know enough history to realize it. Now, that's what this embedded video here is. Fake news has been used for hundreds of years to justify censorship. And it's definitely worth a watch. It's not all that long either. So, but she goes by King Charles II, actually, is one of the central figures in this video, and how he used censorship to quash any and everything that was coming out against him. And there's plenty of other examples in the video as well. It's pretty cool. It's very well done. ActivistPost.com is where that is. Or you can find them on TruthStream Media on YouTube. Information, liberation. Biden declares Easter Sunday Transgender Day of Visibility. We've already said it multiple times. Claim Candace Owens was fired from the Daily Wire for just saying Christ is king. Says Israel admits that it may not be able to destroy Hamas and blames who else but America. says Governor Greg Abbott signs executive order to punish anti-Semitic rhetoric on college campuses. So you can't speak out against anything Israel's doing. Then one of the big stories from this last week, RFK Jr. names Nicole Shanahan as VP pick. I think it's been pretty much resounding thumbs down on that pick. It seems like a system type of pick, a swamp pick. All-Indian crew on ship that crashed into the Francis Scott Key Bridge. And that happened just a few days ago, so we'll get into that some more as well.
The heart of the American dream is in cardiac arrest.
In the first 9 months of last year, private investors bought 3,196 single-family homes in our greater metropolitan area. 1 out of every 7 houses sold.
40% from the start of the pandemic.
In the final half of 2022, the typical U.S. home sold for a record-shattering $468,000. Massive private equity firms like Blackstone and Pradium Partners have backed a relatively new breed of homeowner, the corporation. This growing industry buys or builds single-family homes and then rents them out.
New data reveals that economists have been sugarcoating the rate at which financial Goliaths have been swallowing up America's single-family homes. The previous number they estimated had already been a painful lowball of only 18 to 23% of single-family homes being purchased. That lie was merely intended to help the poison go down. Because in 2023, private equity firms bought up nearly half, 44% of single-family homes in America. The middle-class American homeowner's dream is now an American renter's nightmare.
Our generation will not be homeowners. They will have us permanently renting.
Meanwhile, the real estate industry is collapsing under the weight of corporate lawfare.
This is insane. Realtors are about to have their commissions cut in half.
And if that wasn't enough to crush the middle class, the lack of serious laws regarding squatters' rights is the perfect enticement for Biden's invading border army.
Existe una ley que dice que si una casa no está habitada, podemos expropiarla.
You shouldn't be trying to steal my house. Yes, you are.
Arrested for unlawful eviction. She changed the locks on a man who claims he lives there.
This woman was trying to get inside her own home, but the previous owner refused to leave.
I saw like about 20 people at my property trying to move in as fast as they could.
After her previous tenant moved out, the home had only been vacant for 10 days.
Unfortunately, some of these squatters have gotten pretty sophisticated.
This guy just come out of nowhere saying he purchased a home and just took a home.
It's a tactic real estate attorneys say they're starting to see all too often. Attorney Richard Alembic says they're called wrongful foreclosures or forged deeds. It's when thieves use forged documents to gain ownership of unaware homeowners' properties.
There's no people's court for challenging a wrongful foreclosure or forged deed. So that's the fundamental problem.
Squatters have turned a mansion into a party house. Police have tried and failed to shut down that party mansion since it started.
People in a local apartment complex say squatters are breaking into their homes and even being violent.
Buying a dream home turned into a nightmare. You heard him, for this family from Queens. The house came with something the new owners did not bargain for, a squatter.
I think if we criminalize, no squatting in residential maintained properties, that's going to solve a lot of these issues and send it to criminal court and let law enforcement act.
It's not right that my wife had to quit her job 9 months ago. I had to quit beforehand, get myself prepared down here in Texas because we're next to Eagle Pass and we quit our jobs 9 months ago. And guess what? We have to watch our household day and night to protect our own land down here. And I'm telling you, these illegals that are coming in, get ready, people, because nobody's doing anything. Nobody's talking. It's all talk. I just want you to know they busted down the gates in front of our military, literally busted down the gates, ran right past them, thousands of them. They didn't do anything.
Lobbyist lapdogs in D.C.'s country club of hubris are on course to drain the country dry and hand it over to the World Economic Forum, meeting the goals of the United Nations Agenda 2030.
And as we rebuild our cities and as we rebuild our country to ensure that every single person has a home, we need to invest and pass the Green New Deal for public housing.
Right. Absolutely. Right.
It deals with the issue of the climate catastrophe that we are living in. We must also pass the Green New Deal for public schools. Because the Green New Deal for public schools, working in conjunction with the Green New Deal for public housing, is a form of reparation for our historically marginalized communities.
Throw the bastards out, every last one of them. John Bound reporting for Info. At 1:27 in the morning on March 26, 2024, the Francis Scott Key Bridge in Baltimore Harbor, Baltimore, Maryland, collapsed after the Singapore-registered container ship, the Dali, named after Salvador Dali, rammed into one of only 2 critical support pillars, taking the majority of the 1.6-mile bridge down. The Dali was headed to Colombo, Sri Lanka, with 2 pilots and a crew of 22.
Ain't no way that no tanker ship is gonna crash into no bridge at night by mistake. Question to all my coasties out there: where the pilot boat at and where the tugboat's at? And where's the horn, the crash warning before it hits? I ain't hear no nothing.
The ship's lights can be seen being turned on and off as the ship passes by the support column. Suddenly, the lights are turned back on as the ship turns toward the support column and slams into it. There are also reports that a fire began on the ship, which caused the tugboats to be released 17 minutes before impact with the Francis Scott Key Bridge. The Biden administration's response was, of course, par for the course.
Everything so far indicates that this was a terrible accident. At this time, we have no other indication, no other reason to believe there's any intentional act here. It's my intention that the federal government will pay for the entire cost of reconstructing that bridge.
Red flag. It is blatantly obvious that taxpayers will foot the bill so that insurance companies don't investigate.
This was a ship that appears to be at fault. Is there any reason to believe that the company behind the ship should be held responsible? And then also, you mentioned...
That could be, but we're not going to wait for that happen. We're going to pay for it to get the bridge rebuilt and opened.
The Gateway Pundit reported that an unclassified cybersecurity and infrastructure security agency report said the container ship Dali lost propulsion as it was leaving port and warned Maryland officials of a possible collision.
This is a brilliant, well-planned strategic attack on one of the most important supply chains in the United States of America. And when I talk about hazardous materials, what are we talking about here? This is refined fuels, right? This is propane gas. This is diesel. This is fuel. This is flammable materials. This is oversized loads, nitrogen, chemicals. Everything that you need for your economy to move has literally just been shut down for 4 to 5 years. They knew that they had to target one of 2 main anchor points on that bridge. There are 2 load-bearing pylons that any structural engineer can identify that are on the end of each side of the bridge. These are the ones that are thicker and stronger than anything else on that bridge. They created that bridge because hazardous materials, for example, oversized loads, they don't fit in the tunnel system. Yep. And there's other loads that are so dangerous that they require a permit. It takes time to get a permit. It costs money to get a permit. It requires an escort. You can only move this stuff at night, which automatically impacts the amount of traffic that you can use. The tunnel is going to be overloaded. This is what you call death by 1,000 cuts. It is an absolutely catastrophic attack on critical infrastructure, and you cannot see it because a cyber attack is unseen, just like the attack on 2020 on the voting machines that you cannot see.
Logan adds, quote, for every $100 that goes into the city, $12 comes from shipping, end quote. It is now the troubled city of Baltimore that will be crippled as well.
Everyone, this is a unthinkable tragedy. I pray for our first responders and thank them.
Council members voted tonight to cut $22 million from the Baltimore Police Department.
Baltimore's Southern Police District is the city's largest district.
61,000 residents. And on Tuesday afternoon, sources tell us at one point there were 3 police officers on patrol. Just seconds after the plea for officers hit the airwaves, so did pleas for help.
If anyone in Sector 2 can come clear, we have a physical child abuse at Morrill Park, and there's a 10-year-old at the location with bruises all over his body. Okay, we also have a common assault. We have a missing person, 2640 Huron Street.
The infrastructure of the United States has been under attack since Biden took office, and now a key domestic supply chain has been eliminated within its interior. John Bound reporting for InfoWars.
Yeah, how about that? That was an interesting couple of reports there, I thought. And, if you're like me, you've been following the whole Baltimore bridge thing on and off all week. So it just depends. I mean, I think that it depends on who you ask, whether or not they believe there was any foul play involved. I have a good friend of mine who's a truck driver, and he's convinced it was just an accident. But, I tend to look at things critically like many of you guys do, and I don't see it being an accident. I felt like Laura Logan in that video there was probably right. It wasn't an accident, is my guess. But then again, we'll probably never know either, right? So we're going to look at that in a little closer detail in just a little bit. So let's keep moving, though. Illegal immigrant calls on aliens to invade homes in the U.S., taking advantage of squatting laws. Beware of squatters. Homeowners who go on vacation or a business trip or even for just a week are returning to find their houses overtaken by trespassers who fraudulently claim a right to be there. It's happening to tens of thousands of homeowners from New York City to Atlanta and Los Angeles. So just be aware if you guys know people in those areas or are in those areas yourselves or just wherever you are. So just be aware that this is happening all over the place now. Part of it is because of this one guy. Illegal immigrant calls on other aliens to invade homes in the U.S., taking advantage of squatting laws. So there it is. We mentioned that last week as well. So that's an article on Winepress News. And then this from Modernity.news. Baltimore leader says conservatives should be afraid for calling him the DEI mayor. You saw a little clip of him talking in that last video, and he looks like he can barely form a complete sentence, and yet he's the mayor? Well, I guess you get what you asked for. Baltimore leader Brandon Scott appeared on Joy Reid's MSNBC show to assert that white conservatives should be afraid, quote unquote, of the consequences of calling him the DEI mayor, and that his purpose in life was to make them uncomfortable. Yes, really. So, says professional race baiter Reid angrily asserted that when right-wingers make fun of DEI, they actually mean just black people, claiming it's the reason they complained about critical race theory. It's not fashionable to be openly racist anymore in America. No, that's not why. It's because DEI is ridiculous, and it should never, ever have been implemented. Has nothing to do with black people. It's just that it's taking political correctness to an extreme and hiring people based on wanting to be politically correct versus filling the job with the right person, with the right attributes. So anyway, there is the Baltimore leader there. So yeah, the DEI mayor, as people are calling him. Pretty funny. That's on modernity.news. And then I found this one. This is kind of a little bit of an addendum to the technocracy.news article I mentioned a little while ago. Internet of bodies may lead to Internet of brains by 2050. Yeah, well, I don't think we make it to 2050, personally. Transhumanism may lead to superhuman capabilities for some and mind control for others. Well, they mean for the elite. Superhuman capabilities and mind control, perhaps, but only for the elite, not for the rest of us. Not that we want that anyway, but I'm just saying they don't really bother to tell you that. It says, while some experts predict the tactical improvement of human capabilities, Others have explored the potential emergence of transhumanism within the 2050 timeframe. Rand Corporation from this month. So yes, trying to improve on God's design. That's what it looks like. So there you go. Not too surprised to hear that, I guess. CERN to test world's most powerful particle accelerator during April's solar eclipse to search for invisible matter that secretly powers our universe. Large Hadron Collider will smash atoms together on April 8th. No, it's not smashing atoms. It's smashing protons. The experiment hopes to discover subatomic particles that exist inside atoms. Yeah, well, I wouldn't be too worried about this. I know this is something that's being talked about a lot on YouTube and shared, but this is ongoing research that they're doing, obviously. And if you guys follow Anthony Patch's work, you'll know what he said about CERN recently and over the years. And I think that it's nothing to be concerned about. So, it's something to certainly take into consideration that they're, supposedly back up and running, if that's even true. I'm not even sure that that's true. So as far as the schedule goes and what they're colliding, what sorts of protons that they're colliding and smashing together, and to me it would probably manifest itself perhaps in the world of earthquakes. It could be related to that. Beyond that, opening portals and some of the other, I don't know if you call it fake news, but some of the other stories that you've heard, I'm not so sure I buy that. I don't think that it has that sort of power. But anyway, there's an article here about CERN on Daily Mail. Thought that was kind of interesting. Why NASA, never a straight answer, will fire 3 rockets at the solar eclipse. NASA has announced it will fire 3 scientific-sounding rockets into the moon's shadow on Monday, April 8th, during a partial solar eclipse across America. In what will be a total solar eclipse for a 115 miles wide path through parts of Mexico, 15 U.S. states, and Canada, and a partial solar eclipse for the entire Americas, the event will see a sudden drop in sunlight. Serpent Deity, the space agency's project, atmospheric perturbations around the eclipse path, will investigate how that drop in sunlight and temperature affects Earth's upper atmosphere. APEP is named after the serpent deity from ancient Egyptian mythology, nemesis of the sun deity Ra. So, how about that? NASA's suborbital rockets won't launch into totality. Instead, they'll go from Wallops Flight Facility in Wallops Island, Virginia, from where 81% of the sun will be blocked by the moon. That moment will happen at 15:33 Eastern, though the eclipse will take part between 14:06 and 16:33. So anyway, that's what they're supposedly doing. Firing rockets into the shadow. Very strange. Anyway, that's on Forbes, believe it or not. All right, let's see. Natural news. Declaring Christ as king is anti-Semitic, says Jewish Daily Wire host Andrew Klavan. Jews are God's chosen people that are racially superior to mere Christians. So this is referring back to the whole Candace Owens thing with the Daily Wire. Daily Wire's Andrew Klavan is going to bat for company founder Ben Shapiro, having recently stated on his show that people who believe Christ is king and declare that to Shapiro, an unbelieving Jew, are anti-Semitic. So you better give in and never mention Christ to a Jew, apparently. Otherwise, you're anti-Semitic. So I guess chalk me up for being anti-Semitic if you want. Fine with me. Doesn't bother me. Probably doesn't bother you guys either. Klavan, a Jewish man himself, who says he was baptized by a priest and became a Christian, is taking aim in the below clip at critics of Shapiro, who tried to tell the Daily Wire editor-in-chief and editor emeritus that he must believe in Christ as king in order to be saved. I'm proud of my race. Is it a race, though, or is it just a religion? Which is it? Klavan said about how he responded to the priest who baptized him after the priest said that Christians will never accept Klavan because of his Jewish ancestry. This is according to a priest that told him that. It's a great race. It's done many great things, including write the Bible. Klavan continues, suggesting that the Bible was written not by God-inspired men, both Jew and Gentile, but by the Jewish race. Or maybe not. But that's what he says. There's no access to God without Christ. Absolutely. Klavan says that all Christians, except for those from the Christ is King anti-Semitic crowd, have accepted him with open arms. It is precisely those who try to tell Jews that they must be saved through Christ that Klavan apparently takes issue with, his apparent belief being that they are still God's chosen even without Christ. Well, he can believe it if he wants to. It doesn't mean it's true. Anyway, that's on Natural News. That's where that is. And then I found this one. In a West Bank settlement, Israelis tend red cows and plan the third temple. Radical plans to slaughter the heifers have raised concerns across the Arab world and were even linked to the Hamas October 7 attack. So, yet more about the red heifers. This seems to be something that's it's crazy. I mean, it's like so many people talking about this now, the red heifers, and they're interested in what's going on with that and the third temple and everything. So this is another article here on the heifers, and you can definitely read through this if you're interested. Middle East Eye is the website. And then speaking of the heifers, there was a lot of people reporting on YouTube and other places that they were going to do the sacrifice this weekend. And I said last weekend on the show last week that I did not think that would happen for a number of different reasons, but mostly, in my opinion, it's because it's the Sabbath. I think that's a big one. And this Wallytron 101 is a pretty good YouTube channel. He's got some good info on there, but he was really doing a lot of videos lately here on today is the sacrificial day for the heifers, and I don't think it ever happened. But anyways, that's the danger you run, I suppose, in putting out videos all the time after you've named a certain day and time, and that doesn't happen. So then you sort of look like, well, you don't really know what you're talking about. You run the risk of that. I understand that, and I don't really hold any sort of grudge or issue or anything like that with what he said. I mean, it's a really good guess that the red heifer or heifers would be sacrificed over Passover. I think another date that he's mentioned that is the April 8th deal with the eclipse. So we shall see. We shall see. I mean, it certainly is within the realm of possibility, I would think. So something to keep an eye on. But I think he's got a good channel here. YouTube, it's youtube.com/Wallytron, Wallytron 101. Anyway, yeah, he's keeping a close eye on it. Outrage as Biden proclaims Easter Sunday as Trans Day as visibility as White House bans children from submitting religious-themed Easter egg designs at annual event for military families. I didn't realize it was for military families necessarily. But more on that, and Daily Mail's picked it up. Okay, Oklahoma State Patrol says it is diverting traffic after a barge hit a bridge. So yet again, let's see what's in this video here. So this is a barge smashing into a bridge in Oklahoma. Oklahoma State Patrol said Saturday it closed a highway south of Salisaw after a barge struck a bridge over the Arkansas River. But apparently it didn't crumble the bridge. So pretty wild. So more infrastructure issues. Oklahoma bridge shut down after being struck. So yeah, More info here, and then they're, of course, talking about the one in Baltimore as well. Disabled D.C. man, 64, is beaten to death by 3 girls aged 12 and 13 on a street who were seen celebrating after, with youngest suspect later shot by a masked assailant in her home. This is sort of one of those articles that I often will mention. To me, this sort of proves that we are in the end times. These types of things, these types of stories. A 64-year-old disabled man, Reggie Brown, was beaten to death by a group of girls aged 12 and 13 last October in Washington, D.C. Horrific video showed the girls stomping on Brown and kicking him before running off in a celebratory mood. 5 months later, the 12-year-old girl who was involved in this was shot in her apartment, and all 3 have been arrested and charged with second-degree murder. So, wow, how sad. This is, what's his name, Willie? Reggie Brown. Brutally beaten to death by 3 girls aged 12 and 13. I mean, good grief. So insane. So it's on Daily Mail. And then this is, this has to do with the attack in the Moscow theater. So let's get this straight. On the 3/22 Skull and Bones date, ISIS, the terrorist organization named after the Egyptian god of fertility, attacked Crocus City Hall, a place named after a flower that symbolizes fertility, during Ostara, a pagan holiday that celebrates fertility. Smells like a planned sacrifice. Thought that was kind of interesting and odd. I don't know if that's true, but that's what this guy's saying. Operation Burning Edge impact. This is more about illegals. China camp was just closed in Panama after our recent work, Operation Burning Edge. This is Michael Yon's Substack. Many of you guys know who he is. Doing really good work. So yeah, the China camp. So it's circled there from January. In Panama, China camps is called San Vicente Camp. We call it China Camp because the Chinese invaders, Hezbollah, and many others use this as a way station to the U.S. So, yeah, he's doing some good work. Michael Yon is on what's happening in the Darien Gap and in other places. All the people being funneled to the U.S. Google is ordered to identify who watched certain YouTube videos. A massively overreaching and broad order. The U.S. federal law enforcement and courts have gone a step further in the extreme efforts that they're making to surveil people's activities online, including on Google's vast platforms. The latest, and this isn't Google doing this, by the way, this is overreach by a court, I think. Let me get a little further into this story. The latest is that the tech giants get orders to identify all people who happen to be watching certain videos or live streams on YouTube. But it's not the Diamond Report, so don't worry. After directly censoring creators and channels giving geolocation data of its users to the authorities in response to the controversial geofencing warrants, this is a new example of how Google can be used and abused in dragnet-style investigations. I would take it another step and say this is how, in part, this is how they use geofencing and stuff for the J6ers. That's why they're still going after people. They're still making arrests, and then they will, because they can tell from your cell phone location, cell phone data. Unmasking everyone who watched a particular video is similar to geofencing in that it makes everyone a suspect, and this, a number of experts and rights groups believe, is unconstitutional. You think? In violation of the Fourth Amendment that protects from unreasonable searches. Yes, well, they've thrown that out a long time ago. Says Forbes writes that it has had access to several orders that name certain YouTube videos, citing one unsealed case originating in Kentucky and having to do with people viewing content posted by a user who law enforcement suspects of money laundering for selling Bitcoin for cash. Undercover agents had contacted the user, sending links to drone mapping and AR tutorials. AR is augmented reality. To next turn to Google, asking to be told who watched the videos. The videos had more than 30,000 views, and a court ordered that any user who did between January 1st and 8th, 2023, must be thoroughly unmasked. They're calling it unmasked. The order wanted names, addresses, phone numbers, and account activity of each Google user and IP addresses of everyone who watched the videos without an account. It is fair to expect that law enforcement won't have access to that sensitive personal information without probable cause. I think they're just throwing caution to the wind here and just going for broke. That's what it sounds like. This order turns that assumption on its head. When the police asked for the order to be issued, they stated there is reason to believe that these records would be relevant and material to an ongoing criminal investigation. Again, this is talking about Bitcoin and cash. It's not illegal drugs, not human trafficking, none of that stuff. Not cyber, squatting, not illegals invading the country, not killing millions and millions of people. Nope, not about that. It's about Bitcoin. Although Google complied with the demand to keep silent about all this until the records were unsealed last week, according to Forbes, they do not show whether or not Google provided the data in the case. So we don't know if Google actually delivered the data to this police enforcement organization. So just saying that the data is there and they can basically do a dragnet here, and anybody who's watched certain videos can then be targeted. So that's where we are. So going back to the bridge for a minute, this is Laura Logan's tweet about how important of a target that was, the bridge was. Multiple intel sources, Baltimore bridge collapse was an absolutely brilliant strategic attack on U.S. critical infrastructure. Most likely cyber, and our intel agencies know it. In information warfare terms, they just divided the U.S. along the Mason-Dixon line, exactly like the Civil War. So I won't bother reading through all of this. You guys know much of this already, most likely, but it's a pretty good synopsis of the whole thing, and I'll link to this Laura Logan tweet, and you guys can read through it if you want to. And then this is the sped up. Let's see here. Yeah, this is, what do you notice? It says, clip of the boat striking the Baltimore Bridge at 8x speed is truly insane. So you can see it basically swerving. It's almost like peeling out on pavement. You know what I mean? It's like it's making a hard right to smash into it. It doesn't look like an accident to me. Just my opinion. And I know many of you guys think that same thing. The Roberts Court may force you to drive an EV. We were talking about electric vehicles earlier. Says the Biden administration has just required that the majority of automotive vehicles manufactured be electric by 2032, inflicting upon the American people troublesome cars whose price is an exorbitant $53,500 on average, and that cost a fortune to repair. House Speaker Johnson warned that the move will devastate auto manufacturers. I think that's probably the whole goal, the whole point. Take them out of business and get people out of cars so that they can be further controlled. So anyway, that's on Zero Hedge. Got quite a few articles to go through tonight. Netizens find uncanny similarities between Baltimore Bridge collapse and the scene from Leave the World Behind. I don't have the scene here, but it's interesting that it apparently the same bridge. I didn't see the film. Did you guys see it? The Obama movie? For those of you that don't know, the Francis Scott Key Bridge is the same bridge event that took place in the Netflix movie Leave the World Behind. The production company is owned by the Obamas. So this is the real version, and this is the, I guess, version from the video, from the movie. I don't know. I'm not sure if that's true. I'm just thinking that's not exactly an accident. What do you think? The Elvis Act, you guys know about the Elvis Act, was signed into law in Tennessee to protect music creators from AI impersonation. So this is right up my alley. This is why I wanted to mention this article. This is something I found out about earlier in the week. I'm on the ASCAP email newsletter list, and ASCAP is one of the 3 main PROs. You guys know what PROs are? Probably not, unless you're in the music business. Performance rights organizations. And ASCAP is the oldest one of the 3. ASCAP and BMI, and the other one is called CSAC. CSAC is based here in Nashville, where I am, and then ASCAP and BMI also have offices here in Nashville. And if you're a songwriter and publisher, you certainly do know what they are. You should know what they are, and you should be on their email list as well, because you get some really good information from them. But the Elvis Act was signed into law in Tennessee to protect music creators from AI impersonation. On March 21st, Tennessee became the first state to enact a law that protects musicians' voices from unauthorized impersonation by artificial intelligence. Commenting on, and this is why it's called the Elvis Act. Obviously, he's was from Memphis, but it's called Elvis because it's the Ensuring Likeness, Voice, and Image Security Act. Ensuring Likeness, Voice, and Image Security. That's Elvis Act. The Elvis Act is about balancing the very real concerns that artificial intelligence raises for music creators while making room for responsible innovation. ASCAP applauds Tennessee lawmakers for their leadership in passing this important legislation into law. I should mention that ASCAP is a performance rights organization. It stands for the American Society of Composers, Authors, and Publishers. That's what ASCAP is. So it says when the Elvis Act goes into effect on July 1st, it will be illegal in Tennessee to replicate a creator's voice. It will be illegal to replicate a creator's voice without his or her consent, and creators will be able to sue for damages if their voice is replicated without authorization. I don't think this has anything to do with just speaking. I think it's only singing. But one could make that argument as well, right? So, and then the key points here I thought were pretty interesting. Human creators first is the first point here. Human creators first. Prioritizing rights and compensation for human creativity. Consent, protecting the right to decide whether one's work is included in an AI training license. That's how AI does what it does. It learns from existing human compositions, in this case, music. And then compensation, making sure creators are paid fairly. Credit when creators' works are used in new AI-generated music. Of course, it's not generating anything new. It's just taking everything and remixing and mashing things together and then calling it new, spitting out something else that didn't exist before and calling it new. No, it's a remix. It's taking other music and information, other data from composers, putting it all together and spitting out something else that have different attributes of all of these different pieces of music in writers' works. So anyway, transparency in identifying AI versus human-generated works and retaining metadata and global consistency. So anyway, I think that's pretty good news as well. Kind of goes in line with the other Tennessee article I mentioned tonight as far as the food. So anyway, pretty interesting, I think. We got a few Gateway Pundit articles to check out. Archbishop Carlo Vigano issues statement criticizing Biden's scandalous proclamation of March 31st as Transgender Visibility Day. So it's not the Pope. The Pope isn't doing this. It's this guy. I guess the Pope, I keep calling him the Pup. The Pope must be all for it. Or else he's too sick because he's taking so many sneezes. Maybe he's too sick to care. But this guy is not too happy about it, apparently. Thought that was kind of interesting. White House responds to Christian and GOP backlash. and does not apologize. No, they don't care. So there's lots of information about this. Report FBI agents captured on video during home visit admit they spend every day, all day long, interrogating Americans about their social media posts. FBI agents have been recorded during a home visit to a Stillwater resident, admitting that scrutinizing Americans over their social media activities is a daily operation. How about that? Oklahoma encountered 3 FBI agents at her doorstep, this lady, Rolla, in Oklahoma, inquiring about her Facebook posts. Her lawyer took to social media to post a video of the interaction. The video, which surfaced online on Wednesday, portrays a tense exchange. In the video, this lady, Rolla, declines to speak with agents and requests that they show their badges on camera, a request that the agents did not fulfill. She later verified with local police that the individuals were indeed FBI agents. So, and then I guess this is a still shot maybe from that. I'm thinking that the video is embedded here somewhere. Anyway, there you go. They're FBI saying that they are scrutinizing Americans over their social media activities. That's their job. Just so you know. Thousands of NYPD officers unite in mourning at funeral for slain officer Diller, Jonathan Diller. You may know about this story. 31-year-old officer tragically lost his life in the line of duty in Queens earlier this week, was honored for his bravery, commitment to service, and the profound impact he had on his family and community. Was a dedicated member of the NYPD with 3 years of service. Leaves behind his wife and a 1-year-old son. Very sad. There's a picture of him there you can see. And this is them honoring him as they should. And then what else happened? His blood is on your hands. Wife of the officer, Officer Diller, went after Democrat Mayor Eric Adams and DA Alvin Bragg at her husband's wake. And also the governor there, Kathy Hochul, got kicked out. Says Kathy Hochul was asked to leave the wake for the murdered officer, and Hochul was not the only New York Democrat leader who was asked to leave. So Mayor Eric Adams and Attorney General Alvin Bragg were also asked to leave. So I think that's good. Then there's the video of it if you guys want to see it. Pretty wild. Pretty wild. Things are getting chippy out there. Governor Hochul orders New York landmarks lit up in trans flag colors on Easter Sunday for Transgender Day of Visibility, including One World Trade Center and Niagara Falls. So there you go. These people just never cease to amaze me, what they're doing. Venezuelan illegal who mocked Americans and instructed illegal aliens on how to invade American homes arrested by ICE. So this guy was arrested. He'll probably be turned loose again right away, but anyway, just thought I would mention that because I mentioned him last week as well as this week. Woman goes viral with story of how her Christian conservative values got her fired from Starbucks. I would think so. It is Starbucks after all. But apparently, I read through this, and apparently she had no idea they were so left-leaning. I don't know why she wouldn't know that, but she was working for him for a while and found out the hard way. But then, it was funny in here, and way deep into this article, Prickly Pear Coffee Company from Nashville offered her a job, commenting, "You can come work for us, never waver in what's important to you." Thought that was kind of funny. So she still got offered a job, but I don't think she lived here, though. Anyway, yeah, she was fired by Starbucks based on her conservative Christian values. Not a shocker. She did put up with a lot, though. I'll link to this article in the Substack post that I do. Photo of New York City skyline on Good Good Friday, 1956, shows how much the U.S. has changed. And I mentioned that earlier. I showed you guys the photo right here. 1956. Skyscrapers in New York lit up with crosses and showed a nation that embraced faith. Not anymore, though. Nope. And then this is more about the bridge here. Laura Logan on the bridge collapse. Everyone knows this is a cyber attack on a critical infrastructure corridor in the U.S. Now, I don't think everyone does know. I think a lot of people suspect that. But a lot of people say, no, it's just an accident because they don't want to believe that it could be something dark. But I think it was, personally. NTSB releases data on Dolly's black box, reveals no CCTV footage found, the sensors were cut off and turned back on, and the voice recorder disrupted by background noise. But it's all a coincidence because it was just an accident. If it were just an accident, would all of that stuff happen too? It says, as a Gateway Pundit reported earlier, the NTSB announced the Voyage data recorder, known as a black box, was recovered from the Dolly cargo ship that crashed into the bridge. Says that they revealed that there was about 6 hours of VDR on data, about 6 hours, that included a timeline of midnight to 6 a.m. Before revealing the data on the VDR, this guy, Muse, warned that the quality of the voice recording and the radio data was hard to comprehend due to background noise. So that's pretty convenient, isn't it? He then shared that the VDR sensor data ceased recording. The VDR audio continued to record using the redundant power source. VDR resumed recording sensor data, and during this time, steering commands and rudder orders were recorded on the audio. He continued, the ship's pilot made a very high-frequency radio call for tugs in the vicinity to assist. About this time, the pilot dispatcher phoned the Maryland Transportation Authority duty officer regarding the blackout. He concluded his statement by adding that the ship's speed over ground was recorded at just under 7 knots. From this moment to approximately 129:33, and I think it hit the bridge at 128. The VDR audio recorded sounds consistent with the collision of the bridge. So it got a nice loud and clear recording of the ship smashing into the bridge and knocking it down. That worked fine. But everything leading up to it, no, we lost it. Sorry. But it was just an accident. So when I first saw the name of the ship, this is the kind of stuff I always look at. I saw Dolly and I thought, oh, it's Salvador Dali. So that's the first thing that came to mind. You guys, I'm sure, know who Dali is and have seen his artwork before. It's very unusual, and he was a very unusual cat, for sure. Persistence of Memory with the Melted Clocks is probably the most famous Dali painting, and I thought, the ship has the same name, but I didn't necessarily know that it was named after Salvador Dali. But what I didn't know, and what you guys may not know, is this. Look at this Dali painting. Here, let me give you a better shot here. Look at this one. It's called The Broken Bridge and the Dream. The Broken Bridge and the Dream. That is a Dali painting. The Broken Bridge and the Dream. Dali. The name of the boat that smashed into the Baltimore Bridge, into the Francis Scott Key Bridge. And if you look closely at it, you'll see all of these very strange looking, some humans and also angels, I guess. There's several winged creatures here and here at least. And up here on the top of the bridge where it's broken, you can see a horse, what appears to be one of possibly the pale horse, or certainly one of the horsemen from the apocalypse is what it looks like, on the top of this bridge. So how about that? for mind-blowing craziness associated with this bridge collapse and Dolly. Very strange. But yeah, there's always these funky things about Dolly's work, and I was kind of looking at it earlier. It looks like you could see a face down here in the sand or on the ground. So I'm not really sure what the meaning is of this. I don't know that anybody knows. And you probably can't really see it because of the chat over there on the right, but there's also right over in here on the right corner, and I'll link to this on the Substack post. There's another horse over here as well, a skeleton horse, and then you've got an angel with a human here and an angel with a human woman here. So an angel and a human woman in two different places, which to me speaks of, obviously the Bible. It's talking about, Genesis essentially. So that's what it looks like to me. Very strange, huh? Anyway, I thought you guys would appreciate that. Matt Walsh addresses coincidence of Obama's new movie containing a scene where a cargo ship crashes due to a cyber attack and the Baltimore Key Bridge collapse. So here's, you guys probably know who Matt Walsh is. And so he's talking about the fact that it was in this film, and that's what this tweet is posting about here from this guy, Jimmy Corsetti. Oh my God, this can't be a coincidence. The ship that crashed into the Francis Scott Key Bridge in Baltimore was headed to Sri Lanka. So it says, the ship named Dolly is 300 meters long, 984 feet. The Singapore-registered vessel left Baltimore at 1 a.m., was heading for Colombo, Sri Lanka. It was supposed to arrive in Colombo on April 22nd, 22. And this happened, what day was it? 26th, March 26th. So, but the other crazy thing is here, it says, why on earth did the Barack Obama produced Netflix film about a catastrophic cyber attack, an opening scene from Leave the World Behind? The name of the ship was called the White Lion, apparently. And if you look at the White Lion, it says, the flag of Sri Lanka is a lion. The ship in the opening scene of Obama's Leave the World Behind is named the White Lion. And that is where the Dolly ship was headed. It's going to take a month to get there, but that's where it was going, Sri Lanka. I guess it's all just a coincidence, though. So we'll just keep moving. Sam Bankman-Fried, sentenced to 25 years in prison, second biggest Democrat donor, was convicted for one of the biggest financial frauds in American history. You think he'll serve much time? You think they will Epstein him and get rid of him? And by Epstein him, I don't mean kill him. I think they'll hide him. I mean, he's an important donor, right? Even though he's, I don't know, he's broke or not now. He probably still has millions, is my guess. Squirreled away somewhere. The day of reckoning finally came for Sam Bankman-Fried. Judge Lewis Kaplan of the Southern District of New York Court sentenced him to 300 months, 25 years. So, I don't know. I'm not sure what's going to happen with old SBF. My guess is something will happen. He'll either disappear or be killed, quote unquote, which, that just to me means he'll probably be disappeared. So anyway, yeah, I guess we will see. Trailer full of Bibles is set on fire outside conservative pastor Greg Locke's Tennessee church on Easter Sunday. Someone actually bought a bunch of Bibles in a trailer just to set them on fire outside of a church. What must it feel like to have so much hate? Trailer filled with Bibles set on fire near Mount Juliet Church on Easter morning. Was dropped off in the middle of the intersection, was intentionally set on fire. So, there you go. There you go. Pastor Greg Locke's been kind of an interesting guy. I've followed him a little, but not very much. I don't really know too much about him, but he's very outspoken. Let's just say that. So, there's the trailer of burned Bibles. So, somebody has no problem with it. Pretty amazing, huh? And then this is more about the this guy clapping. This is more about Hochul getting kicked out of the wake. Governor Hochul showed up for the wake for the slain officer and was asked to leave by the family. Yep, it's on Not to Be. So is this one. This is a real advertisement for Visit Philadelphia. Or as we say in England, a real advertisement for Visit Philadelphia. Bro, what in the deuce is this hot garbage right here, and why am I not surprised this is coming out of the city of brotherly love? I would play this, but it's got music in it. I don't really want to get my live stream stopped for this, but you can see it. Well, here, I can play it with it muted, I guess, because it doesn't really matter. You guys can see it, but it's these ridiculous monstrosities in front of these kids, and the kids know how ridiculous and stupid they are. Look at them. You can see their faces. The kids are just, they can't believe their eyes. Yeah. Visit Philadelphia. Yeah, I think I'll pass. Yeah. No sounds about right. Anyway, kind of interesting. That's on Not to Be. Are globalists using the April 8th eclipse for an occult ritual? My guess is probably so. Yeah, and I actually did see that broadcast. It was pretty good. From AJ and company, talking about the eclipse coming up. It's available on band.video is where that is. YouTube says it has a responsibility to manipulate algorithms leading up to the 2024 election. YouTube has a plan to remove and suppress some content and boost what it decides are authoritative sources. Responsibility is a good word. It's even better as an actual thing, but even just as a word, it's a positive one. It signals that reliable people and entities are behind some project or policy. So no wonder, then, that the thoroughly disgraced YouTube, Google, as far as censorship and biased political approach, are trying to use the word responsibility as a narrative fig leaf to cover what the giant platform is actually up to and has been for a long while. Yeah, so get ready for more censorship as we approach the election coming up, if there is one. Black mayors hold national meeting on crime, but the discussion is closed to the public. Black Mayors Coalition on Crime gather in Memphis to discuss the dangers of crime across the U.S., as well as apparent solutions to the growing threat. The question is, was the meeting really about stopping crime, or was it about maintaining optics and making the public believe crime is going down when it's not? But we'll never know because it was all hidden. All right, and then this is on modernity.news. I thought I would play just this last bit here. Paul Joseph Watson talking about some with the Baltimore Bridge.
But what could have increased the likelihood of what appears to be very much an accident is actually way more concerning and points to the growing DEI-driven competency crisis that's actually heightening the risk of more tragedies taking place. This exact same ship, the Darley, collided with the Stone Pier in the port of Antwerp back in 2016. An investigation found that the incident was the fault of the master and the pilot on board. Synergy Marine Group, the company tasked with managing the ship, appears to have prioritised diversity over competency, stating on its website that issues related to diversity are a high priority at Synergy. We realise that the benefits of diversity are best achieved by fostering greater inclusion and belonging. The company indicated that its goal is a, quote, workplace that is truly characterised by inclusion and belonging. Yeah, not by expertise then. Just days before the bridge collapse, the company bragged of its commitment to diversity at sea. Wish they'd be more focused on safety at sea. Seems this ship had a lot of issues, over and above the risk of it being hacked by fill in the blank as part of a global conspiracy. Now check out the Maryland Port Commission's recent diversity hires. Corinthia A. Barber, an expert in workforce training, coaching and diversity, equity, inclusion and belonging, DEIB audits and consulting. Not port safety then. And Sandy A. Roberts, a corporate lawyer who generally knew some marine law, fills you with confidence, doesn't it? We now learn that the entire 22-member crew of the cargo ship that collided with the bridge are Indians. Lest we forget that this is the same country that had to take its first ballistic missile submarine out of commission because someone forgot to properly close a hatch. Yeah, I'm leaning more towards incompetence. What do you think? Conspiracy, cock-up, or blameless accident? Comments down below.
So there you go. I thought that was pretty funny. Well said. Well said. So yeah, more DEI involved in the company that owns and runs the ship, the Dolly. Not too surprising. All right, vaccineimpact.com. A couple headlines here. Was the U.S. Constitution written to protect we the people or we the globalists? Were the founding fathers godly men or servants of Satan? Well, there were apparently a lot of Masons, so I guess everybody has their opinion on that. But there's a pretty good and lengthy article here on vaccineimpact.com. From ISIS to solar eclipse, many Americans now fear an imminent black swan or false flag attack. So, yeah, there's a couple articles there. I think the rest of these we mentioned last week. So vaccineimpact.com is where those are. Now, this one I wanted to just give you an update on. You guys may remember some months ago I did some reporting. You probably have heard of this. It's called The Line. I guess you can't see it because of my chair here. But it's a smart city that's being built in Saudi Arabia. And I just decided I would visit the website to see if they'd even broken ground with it or what's happening with The Line. You guys remember it, I'm sure. So it turns out that, yes, they have broken ground, and yes, they are actually building it. And not only that, they're building all these other different, I don't know, I guess you could say, properties in Neom. N-E-O-M, Neom. You'll see the logo up here in the corner. And just so you know where we're talking about here, this whole corner of northwestern Saudi Arabia, Neom, is the area that we're talking about here. I don't know who owns it, but all of the land that's being developed in this area is right there in that Neom area of, I think I saw it. It's 92 square miles. So not a real big area, but it's important to note, and I mentioned this in a broadcast I did maybe a year or two ago at this point, quite a while back when I started first reporting on The Line in Neom. And that is, it's kind of a small picture here, but this is Egypt, and about right in here is the traditional site of Mount Sinai, where Moses received the Ten Commandments and so forth. That's the traditional spot. Now, that's not the correct spot. That's just where it's observed, right over in here. And because of that, though, Ron Wyatt, you guys know I've talked about him at length on many of my videos. Ron Wyatt did the actual discovery of where the real Mount Sinai is. And guess where it is? It's actually in Neom. It's sitting about where the N in Neom is, right in here roughly. And I mentioned that in the video that I did way back when on that, and showed the map comparing where the traditional Mount Sinai is versus where the real one is that Ron discovered. So I think it's interesting that the actual real Mount Sinai from the Bible is in Neom, which is also in this Gulf of Aqaba area, which apparently is this area right in here. So let's watch this video here about The Line, or at least some of it. And let me show you guys, just give you an update here. And notice, yes, they have indeed broken ground, and they are going full steam ahead with this. And in addition to that, they have these other regions that are available. You guys can probably see that as I roll the mouse pointer over it. See all these other regions here in the Gulf of Aqaba. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 more different facilities, different properties that they're building. But from what I've found out, they appear to be for the rich and famous, not for the average people, not for the average smart city citizen. That's what the line is for, and that's what we're looking at right here. So let's take a listen to at least some of this.
The line is going to change things for the better because we can implement global best practice into every element of the city.
They're building
We are
right there,
working
see?
with the best architects and planners from around the world in order to take all of the learnings we've inherited from other cities and create a new city from scratch.
At The Line, we're working on building an urban model which provides unprecedented livability, a model for nature preservation and sustainability, all while providing a unique environment for economic growth. I am Tariq Qadoumi, and I am the Executive Director of Urban Planning at NEOM.
I am Giles Pendleton, and I am the Executive Director for the Line Proponent.
I'm Salwa Al-Khudairi, and I'm a Senior Architect at NEOM Urban Planning.
My name is Michio Kaku. I'm a professor of theoretical physics, and I'm also a futurist. What will a city of the future look like?
It's being
When I
built.
was a child, I used to think about the city of the future. Are we going to have flying cars? Are we going to visit the moon and Mars? When I grew up, I began to look at these cities like Paris, London, New York, and I saw traffic jams. I saw pollution. I saw tremendous inequalities. And I said to myself, we can do better. We can create, perhaps out of the desert, a city that would be sustainable, livable, a city of the future. The line shows us a new way of doing things, a new pattern by which we can make a livable future.
Placemaking to me is about creating the canvas for community.
It's about creating spaces for people to want to visit and live in.
A place that cares for its society.
Many demographers think that the cities of the future will contain about 50 million people. That's not livable at all. At The Line, we are working on creating a template by which we can create cities of the future. That's where jobs are. That's where opportunities are. And so placemaking to me is about creating a legacy, creating a template by which other nations can then compare their cities, their plans with what's being done here in Saudi Arabia. So, what are we looking at here?
So we're looking at the line as a whole. The line spans across 3 different geological regions. So we have the coastal desert, the mountain, and the upper valley. It starts out at 500 meters height, and then slowly, as the topography rises, it disappears into the mountains. We have the hidden marina. This is where we're starting construction. We bring in a canal from the Red Sea to create a bay.
All this is sustainable, right?
NEOM itself is 100% renewable energy. We produce energy through solar, wind, and hydrogen. We also have 100% sustainable water, meaning we take out water through desalination from the sea. However, we don't dump the brine back into the sea. So we use that salt and we recycle it, making the process very sustainable. So this is a section of the line. You're going to have the mirror. This is where the mobility at height is going to be happening. This is your neighborhood, for example, right?
And where are the shops where people can go shopping for
So
things?
all of here is shops, right?
Shops,
So
yeah.
where your public space is, these that could be office spaces, right? Where people come down for lunch and sit outside. And basically you're 5 minutes away from your daily needs, meaning your school, your nursery.
Makes life very convenient then, right? Everything's within walking distance. Like Midtown Manhattan, you're within walking distance of everything. Within Midtown. But outside of that is hell.
It gets worse
The
and worse.
commuting is incredible to get to that Midtown Manhattan. So this is where all the action takes place.
Absolutely.
Right here.
Absolutely. So this is
Okay.
representative of an 800 meter wide module, 500 meters tall. These lights demonstrate what a mobility corridor would do. So as you can see, we have no ground floor. The subway is at multiple heights. And that allows you to potentially, if you're in a unit here, you can either go up to a subway or down to a subway.
So if I live here then the 5-minute rule would be around here.
Yeah, so 5-minute rule is generally 400 meters, vertically and horizontally, and literally across. So we live in a 3-dimensional city. The 5-minute rule is really a function of achieving your daily needs.
And no cars. This is amazing. No cars.
Yes, I think that the principle of the module is about community. You don't enjoy or become part of community by driving past in a car. So the idea is to encourage our residents and visitors to explore the city on foot.
So your world, with all your basic needs, are met within 5 minutes of your living unit. Like Lego blocks, if you stack these modules one after the other, you get the line.
Absolutely.
Okay, well, you get the idea. There's more here. There's an entire interview that Michio Kaku does with these three. And I just wanted to show you guys this and that they have broken ground. They are moving forward with this. So, yeah, this is a massive, many-mile long prison is what this is. And it's as tall as the Empire State Building, but mirrored. So what's that going to do to the wildlife in that area? I mean, it's a desert, so I'm not sure how much there would be, but certainly there are birds, right? Don't they fly directly into mirrored things oftentimes? And these mirrored walls are going to be as tall as the Empire State Building. That's how tall these things are. And it goes on for many, many miles. So, anyway, I just wanted to mention that. And this is one of the other videos here. I won't bother playing it because it's got quite a bit of music in it, but this is the kind of stuff they're trying to sell people on. It's just this whole living in a 3D world, 3D city, as far as the way it's set up, and it's almost like a video game or something. They're trying to make it look so appealing and so wonderful, and they're obviously trying to appeal to a young crowd here. So anyway, yep, I thought I would mention that, and then let's take a look at, before we leave this whole idea here, let's look at some of these other properties, and let me just show you some of these other ones, because I find it pretty interesting. It says exclusive beach club that redefines shoreline luxury. This is for people with lots and lots of money, not for your average people. Again, Gulf of Aqaba in Saudi Arabia is where this is. There's that place. What was that called? Zaynor. Here's Norlana. They have all these futuristic sounding, silly types of names. Community with unrivaled experiences. This is Norlana. Again, running along the beach. This is where the rich and famous will be able to go play and hang out, while the rest of us are imprisoned in a smart city. But not for them, you see. And we'll just pick one more here. Leisha, I guess. It's hard to know how to pronounce these things. A new world of wonder. So they've, taken the whole, I guess, Star Trek idea to the extreme. As far as, some of the properties and stuff look like something you might see in a sci-fi movie. Anyway, I just wanted to show you guys that. I thought it was pretty wild. The visuals are stunning for sure, but this is, in my opinion, this is a juxtaposition between the haves and the have-nots. This that we're getting a glimpse of here are what the rich and famous, what the elites will have, and not for everyone else. They will have the transhumanism technology that will make them superior beings, and they'll have these types of places to romp and play about. Whereas everyone else that they define as useless eaters will be in those smart cities like the Line and imprisoned. So anyway, yeah, a couple of the questions that I had thought about just while I was watching the video on the Line was I didn't see any mention, or there was no mention of where are the funeral homes? What happens when you die? So my guess is it goes back to the whole composting idea, probably, for the line. That particular one's called Zardoon, this one. So you can see they've got all of these different properties planned. And again, going back to where is it? This one's called Gidori. It is right here, Neom, northwestern Saudi Arabia. That's what we're talking. So yeah, there's where are the funeral homes? What happens to a body when someone dies? And the other question I had was just for all of those people that we were watching in the video a little bit ago. Where will you be living? Because my guess is it'll be somewhere more akin to this. It's where they'll be living, not in the line. Just a guess. Anyways, I just thought it was all very interesting, and not sure that you guys would have even come across it, but I have in my travails across the internet here, so I wanted to bring it to your attention. Let's take a look at GeoWatch for this week. We have geoengineeringwatch.org is the website. I help Mr. Dane with it, and this week's broadcast and show is entitled Noxious Mist. March 30th, show number 451. NOAA gets a dire warning about geoengineering. The hot controversy surrounding solar geoengineering, why this risky climate fix lacks red tape. Global climate intervention operations are finally being forced out into the open. What happens when populations all over the world find out what their governments have done to them without their knowledge or consent? So that is Noxious Mist is the name of that one on geoengineeringwatch.org. It's also available, like I always say, on Spotify, and that one's an audio-only version. And then it's available on BitChute and Rumble as well. So yeah, just look up Dane Wigington on those other platforms, and you'll be able to find those platforms, on those broadcasts on those platforms. And then make sure you're on our email list. Email sign up right here. Email newsletter sign up. So just click that little block and put your email address in there, and you'll get all the updates as we do them. Here's the 6 to 10 day outlook on the scheduled weather from NOAA. Once again, radically crazy looking maps. Above average throughout the center here, and below average here, and below average here. So there is no normal anymore. This is what they're calling normal. Below and near normal. Little stripes of different pockets of temperature here. So above normal, though, throughout the entire middle of the country. Pretty wild. April 6th through 10th. Looks a bit like the eclipse, doesn't it? Some of these long swaths. Pretty wild. Let's see. Red heifers get names. I came across this one on Israel 365 News. Yeah, they've named them. Isn't that nice? Says the temple movement held a conference in ancient Shiloh on Wednesday concerning the red heifer, while the conference focused on the complex theoretical aspects of the esoteric Torah commandment to burn red heifers. The 5 crimson creatures were the focus of the debate, were off to the side, calmly chewing their cud. The rare yet adorable bovines were not entirely ignored. The organizers took a few moments to bestow names on the 2-year-old cows. So if you wondered how old they are, I think they have to be at least 2 years and 1 day, and perhaps not more than 3 years old. So we have a little window here of time that they are right smack in the middle of right now. So their names, their English names, mean hope, redemption, life-giving, comfort, and virtue. So who knows how many of those? I think of the 5, one of them has already been disqualified from being the red heifer, but I don't know if they'll have more than one or not. They only need one to be the 10th red heifer that would be sacrificed. The last one that was sacrificed was like 2,000 years ago, so this is a pretty big deal. So yeah, they're all named, and the names here are Tikva, 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 and then Gula, and Techia, and Nekama, and Segula. So at least one of those will probably be the 10th red heifer that will be sacrificed soon, although I don't think it happened this weekend, as I mentioned earlier. So anyway, that is, I think that was the last of the articles that I had for you guys. And then here's a red heifer article on Temple Institute on Facebook, which I've mentioned multiple times. They put everything that they do on Facebook. So if you're not on Facebook, I guess it wouldn't really matter. But if you want to take a look at this Facebook page, they do have a lot of information on there. So feel free to look at that. And this is another article from the Temple Institute. They will be the outfit that is the organization that is instrumental in building the actual third temple. If they do build a physical building, that's the organization that will be in charge of the entire construction. And like I said before, they have collected enough money to build not just the temple, but an entire city. Smart city, anyone? So yeah, this is a red heifer article here on the Temple Institute, and this is an example of what it might look like, I guess, and all kinds of stuff. But they really want to build their temple, so my guess is they're going to get their wishes. The only little problem they have is something called the Dome of the Rock and the Al-Aqsa Mosque that are in their way. Remember, we have tectonic weapons. Well, we don't. Me and you don't. But there are tectonic weapons. What happens if somebody decides to set off their own little bit of shake, rattling, and rolling in such a way that it knocks down those buildings on Temple Mount without actually cracking and knocking down the Temple Mount? Could that happen? Is that far-fetched? Well, it could certainly suit their timeline, wouldn't it? So anyway, we know they're really wanting to move forward with this, so we will see. They're really trying to push prophecy and push God into a corner somehow. This is how hubristic these people are, just full of themselves. But of course, you and I know that. All right, so let's see here. There is the lovely hoodie that I'm sporting. That's a different color. That's a black one, but if you want to help me out here, definitely you'll notice that there were no commercials here. So the only way I can cover the time that I've spent is to, well, you guys know. You guys know how it works. Many of you probably run businesses or are instrumental in helping small businesses. So you know how it works, and time is money. So I would certainly appreciate any help you guys want to offer as far as subscribing. You can do so through my Substack, and then also through the Diamond Report store, of which this Conspiracy Analyst hoodie is one of many products. You can see that it's in multiple colors. They're only showing 3 here on the page, but I think there's probably around 10 or so different colors, and then I've got other options as far as the store goes. There's stickers, there's mugs, there's other little options. You can jump in and help me out as far as buying a hat or a mug or whatever. And that certainly does help. So thank you guys very much for that. And I've had really, really good reports back on the quality of the items. So I've not been disappointed myself either. I've ordered a number of different things just to test them and see what sort of quality they are, and they're all really good. So that's good news. Good news. And then here's the Substack. If you guys haven't already signed up, please do that. That'll help me out. Please subscribe to the YouTube channel as well. That would certainly help me. They keep peeling off a few subscribers every week. YouTube does. I think their algorithm just removes so many people every week, and so I'm seeing the numbers go down instead of up. So that tells me I'm doing something right. So anyway, Substack is diamondist.substack.com. The link is in the upper right corner up there in the box, and this is kind of what it looks like. Feel free to take a look at that if you want, and you can sign up. There is a mechanism to give monthly if you're so inclined, and I've had a few people do that, so thank you guys. You know who you are, people who are helping me out by subscribing, and man, that's really a lot of help, so thank you guys. And then you can follow me on these other platforms as well. This is the Diamond Report on Twitter. And it's just the Diamond RPRT. The Diamond RPRT. So that's what it is on Twitter. And then many of you guys are already on the YouTube channel, but it's Take It to the Lord in Prayer on YouTube. But you'll find all of the YouTube safe versions of this show on this channel as well. And then Diamond Disc on the other platforms like Rumble and BitChute and Brighteon and so forth. So, and then looks like Miss Emily's put the link for the band group in there too, in the chat. So I see it in chat on YouTube and on Rumble. So it's there if you guys want to look for, just a free spot where you can go and meet new people, meet new friends, and share information. That's really what it's about. So that's what the Diamond Report band group is about. There's no censoring. So yeah, that's kind of a cool thing, I think. And we've had lots and lots of really good posts there. People are putting what they're researching into band little by little, just by pasting links in there and stuff. And it's pretty cool just to see what you guys are looking at, I think. So anyway, yeah, I guess that's it for me tonight. I didn't really see any other questions or comments that have popped up for me in the chat. But you guys have had quite a conversation here. I was kind of watching it go by. So yeah, it looks like I guess that's it for me. Let's go ahead and wrap it up so we can get this thing put out tomorrow. What I'll do is I'll do a final tightening up of the show, and it'll go back on all these other platforms like Rumble and BitChute and Brighteon and so forth tomorrow. And then Tuesday, watch for the link to the YouTube safe version and also all of the articles. So that'll come out on Substack on Tuesday. So anyway, hope you guys have a really great week, and I think it'll be an interesting one. We're not too far out really from the big eclipse. I'm not worried about it. I think it's one of those things that it'll be much ado about nothing to some degree. Although I do think that the powers that be will be using it as a test mechanism for martial law, just to not actually implement martial law, but to test things and to make sure that when they do want to, if they do need to use it for some reason, as far as their needs, not our needs, then they'll know how to implement it. And I do think that they will be using it for that style of thing. So watch for that, although I'm not really sure how much we'll see versus how much we'll hear afterwards. So yeah, I do think the eclipse will be important. So it's coming up though. I think that's on the 8th, so we got about a week or so on that. So we'll have another broadcast before then. The next broadcast will be 10 p.m. on the 7th. So it'll be on the eve of the eclipse. So we'll talk about it a little bit more then. Hope you guys have a blessed week. Thank you all for being here so much. And I'll close with another interesting video that I've got here. And we'll call it a night for this week. And certainly feel free to stay in touch. You guys can reach out to me through Substack or through Band. Those are probably the best two ways to do that. And again, I hope you have a blessed week. Thank you, and know that the Lord Jesus Christ is here. If you haven't asked him into your life, you should do that. You need to get right with God, because we do not know what tomorrow brings. And I think we are all in for a wild ride over the next few years, to say the least. So blessings to all, and I'll talk to you again real soon.